Hello and welcome to the channel. In this video, I am going to discuss about the CSS grid and its different properties and also how we can make it responsive. So let's get started. CSS grid layout divides a page into different regions using horizontal and vertical lines into rows and columns, just like HTML tables. The parent element where grid property is applied to is called container and its children are called items. Each container consists of a number of boxes formed by the horizontal and vertical lines called the cells, and the items are contained within these cells. Here I have already created a web page which consists of a section containing 7 divs. Each div is of a different color and they are numbered. Here the section is the container and each of the divs are items. Now to turn any HTML element into a grid container, we have to set its display property to grid. This allows us to use all the CSS grid properties within the container. There are different CSS properties that can be used to achieve the desired result. Some of these properties have to be applied to the container and some to the items. Here is the list of CSS grid properties divided into two columns on the basis of whether it should be applied to the container or item. Now we have set the display to grid, but to define this structure we have to first add some columns to the grid by using the grid template property. I have added 3 columns of width 5 em each. If you want to add or decrease the number of columns, just add or remove the number of parameters. Say I add one more 5 em, then the number of columns becomes 4, and if I remove 2 ems, the number of columns becomes 2. The grid template column property automatically sets the number of rows and their sizes, but if we want to manually add the number and size of rows, then we have to use grid template row property. So grid template row of 10 em, 5 em and 8 em. This sets different rows of sizes 10 em, 5 em and 8 em. Apart from setting the dimensions of the grid elements in pixels, em or rem, we can also use fr, which stands for fraction of the available space, percentage that sets the width and height in percentage of width or height of the container, and auto that automatically sets the dimensions. Now we have to give some space or gap between the different items, between these different columns and rows. For that, there is a property called grid gap. Earlier, the property to give the gap between containers was called grid column gap, but it is now obsolete. So now it is called just as column gap. If you write here grid column gap, it will define the properties obsolete for using it. So now just write column dash gap and give it a space of 1 em. All the columns will be given a space of 1 em. Similarly, to give gap to the rows, row gap, say 2 em, save it. Here it is. Now there's a shortcut to give the gaps. For that, all you have to do is just write as gap, and here if you pass in one parameter, say just 1 em, it will give both the row and the column a gap of 1 em. But if you pass in two parameters, so one is 1 em and other is 2 em, the first one 1 em gap will be given to the rows and a 2 em gap will be given to the columns. Save it. Here it is. So that's it for the gap. The horizontal and vertical lines that create the grid are simply called lines. These lines are numbered starting at 1, not 0 at the top left corner and moves towards the right for columns and downwards for rows. To set the number of columns an item will take up, we can use the grid column property along with the line number so that we can set the item to start and to stop. The grid line the item will start and stop it. Now, if we write grid column 2/4, it means that the grid will start at line 2. This is line 1, this is line 2, 3 and then 4. It will start at line 2 and take up to line 4. Save it. See, it starts at line 2 and goes up all the way to line 4. One more thing to notice is that this property will be given to the individual item, not to the main container. That is, no, I'm not giving it to the section, I'm giving it to the div 1, sorry, div 2. In the same way, for to set the number of to set how many rows the item will take up, we can enter grid slash dash row, and I want to start it at the line 1 and go all the way down, that is 1 2 3 and 4, 1/4. Okay, we can align the items inside the cells horizontally using the property justify self. This property aligns the contents within the item in 3 positions: start, end or center. By default the contents of the cell are given the property of stretch, which makes it occupy the whole cell. The property has to be applied to the individual item. So in the div 2, if I write justify self and give it a position of center, save it. Here, initially it occupies the entire cell, that's why the entire cell was colored as indigo. Now there is the center and then there is a start and end. And to position the cell, means the item within the cell vertically, we have to use the property called align self. The position is the same as the justify self, start, end and center. Now to align all the items vertically or horizontally at the same time, instead of individually positioning each item, we can apply the justify items property to the container, not the cell items, the container, to align horizontally. And to to align horizontally we have to use justify items, and to align vertically we have to use align items. Now let me remove these two, save it, then go to the section which means the container of the grid container, and if you apply justify items center, then this is start, this is end, and then align items center, start, and end. Now there is another property called grid template areas. We use this by using the property called grid template area. We can group cells together into areas by giving the areas a custom name. We usually do this in this manner. Right, grid template areas, and within inverted commas, what I want to do is I want to have a header here at the top, a navbar at this position, and the contents, and a footer at the end. So since there are three columns, header, 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 then a nav at the side taking just the column, just one column, then here will be the content, same will be repeated once more, and no, let's not repeat it, and at the end there will be a footer, footer. Here it is a 3 columns and 3 rows. In the same way there are 3 columns and 3 rows. Now after we have created the grid template area for our grid container, we have to provide a reference to the items in our grid in a custom area by putting the property grid area in the particular item we want to refer to. Say I want this div1 to be the header. Okay, so I go to div1, then I write grid area and give it the name as header. Now header occupies the entire first row. When I save it, it is taking the entire first row, but I have not yet placed this one. So I want the div2 to take the nav base. It means it should be a nav bar. In the same manner, I give it grid area and nav. See, it took the header space, and the div2 took the nav bar space, and then the two contents div3 will be content, so will the div4 will also be a content. The two cells merge together to take the content, and the rest of the 5 divs, sorry, the 3 divs, div5, div6 and div7, I will make them the footer. Now once I place them as a footer, all 3 of them will be merged together, and you will see grid area as footer, save it, footer, and save it here. All of them merged together to form the footer. So this is the header, the nav bar, the content and the footer. There is another way of using grid area, but here we don't have to create a grid template area at the container, but instead apply the grid area property at that particular item where we want to create the area. Now here is the syntax for that. Suppose I want to, yes, here is a syntax. Suppose I want to on this the div2 to occupy both these two columns and both these two rows. So for that I write grid area and then the horizontal line to start it. The horizontal line starts from 1 and goes on increasing as you go down, and the vertical line starts at 1 and increasing as you go towards the right. So horizontal line to start at is 1, then the vertical line to start at is 1 and 2, is line 2, then the horizontal line to end it 1, 2 and 3, and then the vertical line to end it is 1, 2, 3 and 4, and save it. Here the div2 occupies these two columns and these two rows. Now let's remove this, save it. Suppose we have a 5 by 10 grid with 50 cells, each of width and height of 5 em. Now it will be a hassle to keep on writing 5 em 50 times. To get around this, CSS provides us with a function called repeat, which we use in this manner. So instead of writing 5 em, 5 em, 5 em, we are going to do repeat 10. It's a number of times that you want to repeat it and the width of it. So if we count, there will be 10 columns, each of width 5 em. If you want to make it fit within the screen, then we have to place it 1 FR. Here are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, up to 7, 8, 9 and 10. We can also give different values to the grid template columns. Say we have a grid having 2 columns of 5 em and 1 FR repeating twice and another of 50 pixel. Then what we have to do is write 2, it will repeat twice. Let's say 3 times. One will be of 5 em, another one will be of 1 FR, and it will be 3 times 6. There will be 6 columns and the last column say a fixed width of 50 pixel. When you save it, here we have got 1, 2, this is 5 em, then 1 FR, then again 5 em, then 1 FR. It repeats 3 times and the last one is a 50 pixel. This is simply translated as grid template columns 5 em 1 FR, 5 em 1 FR, 5 em 1 FR, and the last one will be a 50 pixel. We remove the previous line, it's the same. Okay, now if we want to change the size of the container and we want to limit the size of the items up to which they can expand or contract, then we can use a function called min-max function where we pass in 2 parameters. We can take this one, remove this and say min-max 50 pixel and say 100 pixel. So this is giving us three columns. First one is of 5 em and the next one is of 1 fr. Now if we increase the size of the window, it is not very pronounced here. Let me just change the parameters. Let's say I give a minimum of 5 em and a max of 20 em. Now when you keep on increasing, this column will increase the maximum width of 20 em. Then when we decrease it, it will decrease to a minimum width of 5 em, not lesser than that. So this limits the width, minimum or maximum width of the column, or you can also apply to the row also. The last two functions, repeat and min max, can be combined together in this manner. Let me remove this. First we pass in repeat, then we want it to repeat say twice, then min max first time will be of the minimum will be of 5 em and the max will be of 20 em. Then I want another column of say 1 fr. Then save it. Okay, so these two are repeating. It will have a maximum of 20 em and a minimum of 5 em. See, it does not decrease lesser than 5 em. The repeat function offers us a property called autofill, which we pass in the place of the number of times the column repeats. It automatically inserts as many rows or columns of the size we pass depending on the size of the container. Here, let's say autofill, repeat, autofill, then I want a column of 5 em each, save it. So it will just keep on inserting the columns according to the available space that is available to it. We decrease the space, increase the space, okay. Then it can be also be used along with in the combination with min max function. So the first parameter will be autofill in the repeat function, then the next parameter will be the function of min max, where I write the minimum width of the column will be 5 em and the max will be the 1 fr. Save it, and if we keep on increasing it, keeps on filling up the row with new columns. Then new columns, each of minimum width of 5 em and a maximum of 1 fr. If it can't fit it with any more columns, then it will pass the remaining cells into a new row. There is another property called autofill that we use along with the repeat function. It is kind of a opposite of this of autofill. The autofill property, what it does, instead of collapsing the size of the individual cells, what it does, it stretches it to fit the remaining portion of the space, so the container. If we write autofit and save it, then we keep on increasing it. It stretches the cells to occupy the rest of the space that is available to it. Okay, so these are all the properties that are basically required with grid. And one last thing that is left is the responsiveness of the grid container. So there are a couple of ways in which we can use the add media query. Say I want to give 2 breakpoints. First one will be of say max width of 900 pixels. Mean width. Next one will be of say 700 pixels. So what I'm going to do is I want to first I want to create say 4 columns 5 em. Let's put it 1 FR. It will be better to look at. Repeat 4 columns of 1 FR each. Okay. Then when the screen reaches the breakpoint of 900 pixel, then instead of 4 there will be 3 columns, and on further reducing the screen size of up to say 700 pixel, then there will be 2 columns. Sorry, not minute, it should be max width. So you see it is more than 900 pixels, so there are 4 columns. As soon as it hits 900 pixels, then it becomes 3 columns. On reducing it further, it becomes 2 columns. Then it does, and it remains 2 columns no matter how much you reduce it more. That's one way of applying it. Then there is another way of doing it is by using the grid template areas. Say grid template areas. First one will be a header, and then there will be a neighbor at the side. 2 columns for the content, and the last one will be for footer. Grid area will be the header, div 1. Grid area will be the nav, and then area will be the content. So will be the div 4 will also be a content, and the last 3 will be the footer. Okay, now say I want to change the grid template area, the size along with the screen size, and the layout I can change it. Instead of putting the nav in this position, I can make the nav take up the entire top portion as the screen reduces, and remove the header completely. So in order to do that, when I reach this breakpoint, the template areas, the top portion will be nav, 2 columns of nav, just 2 columns. And then say I want the header, then say content, and the last one we should leave the footer. Okay, this is the nav, then the header, then the content and the footer. We increase the size and it changes. There is I think one last thing that I have to show here, which is we can create grid within a grid. Let me remove the grid template area. Okay, now so there are 4 more divs within the third div. Okay, 1 2 3 4. Then just go to the particular item div 3 and just add display grid and 3 template columns, one effort. So this is a grid within a grid. So that's it then. These are basically only the things that you require to use the grid in CSS. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you on the next one then.